This is Tax Pro Nation, the home of independent tax professionals. Find community, maximize your earnings, and live life on your own terms. I'm your host, Jeff Dolan, Vice President of Pronto Tax School.
And I'm your co-host, Andy Fry, founder and CEO of Pronto Tax School. My grandfather started Pronto Income Tax in Los Angeles back in 1965. My father and I carried on the family business and became tax business entrepreneurs. I launched Pronto Tax School because I know that given the right training and tools, you too can experience the freedom the tax business can offer. I grew up with a dad who wasn't working all the time, who had time to spend with his 5 children, who could take us to the beach on a Tuesday if that's what he wanted to do. The tax business can be an ideal business for people who want that kind of freedom, but it's got to be done purposefully in order to work that way.
And that's why we're here, to help you navigate your journey as an independent tax professional. Don't do it alone. Join the nation. Let's jump in. Welcome to episode 6, where we will be discussing step 6 of the 9 steps of the Pronto Path, which is our map of the journey you will take as an independent tax pro. In this opening series, we are tackling 1 step per episode. Step 6 is called Stabilization. Develop at least one profitable service other than tax preparation that works well with tax preparation. That was a tongue twister.
Yeah, and it could be a life twister in real life. It's something that is very important, and many tax pros are struggling with this right now as we speak. This idea how to stabilize your business and have a year-round flow of revenue and that kind of thing. So maybe it's not as exciting on the surface as some of the other steps that we talked about. It's very crucial when you hit this point to get that other profitable service that kind of rounds out your business.
Right. So we've initiated, we've activated, we've gotten traction, we've elevated, and we've accelerated. So we were going Mach speed last week. Wheels are coming off. Hopefully they weren't. Hopefully we're going to stabilize here. So in this episode, we're getting some stabilization in our business, in our cash flow, in our HR. We're getting our health straight. Looking at our numbers on a regular basis so we know our spending, getting that under control. Now we're in the stabilization step, which seems kind of scary a little bit because we're essentially saying you need to start a new business within your business.
Yeah, and I think this idea of stabilizing your business by having another profitable service, it's one of those things, Jeff, where I think it can really vary what that means for you as a business owner. And I think a lot of it will, or if you're an employee, what that means for you for your career. It's going to depend a lot on your overhead costs. Like if you are having offices and you're having hard office locations with the way that costs have gone up for that, if you've added team members during your acceleration step, this stabilization is going to be a more robust process, if you will. And let me give you an example. We talked about some of the HR challenges that come along with that acceleration stage. And so let's say you have a great team member who comes on during tax season and you guys just knock it out of the park together, right? And I love working with this person. They love working with me. And it comes the end of the tax season. It's almost like, we used to say it's almost like having a really bad hangover, where you're like, you had fun, but what's going to be the next couple days, or in this case, the next 8 to 9 months, what is that other person, what opportunity do they have? And making sure that we have the best opportunities for ourselves and our team members. The tax preparation business, even though there is more work year-round than there's ever been, it's still pretty seasonal. So talented people, you can come to the end of tax season and what's the next opportunity for them, and how do you stay a part of that person's world so they keep having an opportunity with you. And that's kind of the stabilization, some of the questions you start to ask yourself.
So if I can understand that from a business owner standpoint, if I'm an employee or a part-time person, is this relevant? Is this step relevant, or just kind of beyond?
I mean, I think it's relevant to everyone that has bills and expenses on a year-round basis, which is pretty much everyone, right? So when you are without, income for 8 months or for 9 months, and the way they've been compressing tax season, it seems like it's getting shorter every year. Not a lot of people can handle that on an ongoing basis. And so I think it's extremely relevant for everybody. And even if stabilization for you as an employee, a tax career, is finding another job that's complementary to you keeping doing taxes, and that works with that schedule. So maybe, we've seen people that do, for instance, real estate, because real estate is mostly in, the spring and summer, and is a little bit slower a lot of times in the winter times.
Interesting.
So what works for you with putting your life together in a way that, helps you capitalize on the momentum that you built with this acceleration, this excitement. But the numbers have to work, and if you're a business owner or you're an employee, anytime you have expenses and you have, a family or whatever else is going on with you, you need to be able to earn some income year round.
If I'm listening to this and I'm thinking, I just busted my butt working so hard during tax season, can I just enjoy the fruits of my labor the rest of the year if I made enough money?
Yeah, and I think you absolutely can. And I think that's an ideal situation for a number of people that get into the tax business. And like I said, that's one of the main thing that is appealing, is you have some downtime. At the same time, I think people look at their numbers for their personal finances. Most people that I know that are successful in the tax business over the long term have another complementary activity that they form. So you certainly can kind of sit on that money, but it's not a lot of people psychologically can withstand, say you have $40,000 in your bank account after tax season, and that dwindles down to zero in November. It's not a real ideal situation for a lot of people, right?
Right.
It doesn't really sound that fun.
Yeah. Plus, if you're a hustler and you want to just work, I mean, you don't want to just sit around and do nothing all year. And it's pretty hard psychologically to do that too.
Yeah, and it's when you have idle time and you're not getting in, there's a lot of other things that you can end up getting into that maybe aren't the best for you. So I think whatever this stabilization phase looks like for you, if you've gotten to this point and you've accelerated your business, it probably indicates that you have some ambition, you have some talents, you see an opportunity for you. And so I think stabilization is all about, kind of growing into that, and acceleration, as we kind of talked about last episode, it's like everything's going so quickly. And at a certain point, you want to feel that you're stabilizing and getting a grip on things. And at the end of the day, in our society, a lot of that has to do with maintaining some kind of cash flow,
right,
for your life, right? I mean, am I pointing out the obvious here? Or
No.
what?
I mean, it's funny, like in the trading world, we call it smoothing our equity curve. You don't want this big spike up and then spike down and spike up, and it's just crazy, right? You want a kind of nice, stable growth. And so that's essentially what we're saying. You need other streams of income to round out your year, so you're not just up and down all the time with your profits and expenses. So, it's the end of tax season. Let's say you've got money in the bank. The off season's coming. You've got the admin who's trying to feed her kids and year round. You've got your bills coming in. You bought that new car. You got that bigger office, higher rent. All these things are happening, right? And you're looking at this next step. What do you do? Like what's the next step here? You want to stabilize your business. Do I go back through the Pronto Path?
Yeah, it's an interesting way to look at it. I think it's going to depend on what your situation is as far as your carrying costs and your overhead. I really think that that's going to be a big determinant of the speed at which you need to add another service, or how much maybe you need to invest time and resources into building up another profitable service. But either way, if you're coming to the end of tax season and you have that kind of big wad of money that you've earned, it's definitely good to kind of take a little bit of time to just give yourself a rest and kind of recoup and get some R&R. If you've achieved that point though, where you even have some money with tax season, again, you know that you have more opportunities. And so that, I think for us as tax professionals, sometimes we have a feeling of that there's so many other opportunities that we could be doing, but we're not sure kind of which one is the best fit or which is going to be a match for our tax business. Because if you look at your tax career, if you look at some of the other options that come into play, which we'll talk about here in a second, say like bookkeeping, for example, right? Taxes and bookkeeping a lot of times are known to go together. But what a lot of tax professionals find out is that for a lot of tax pros, those actually don't go together well at all, because the entire point of why a lot of people like the tax business is that you don't have to deal with that business on every week. That's like a whole point. So like, for instance, that was, one thing at Pronto is that we never really got into bookkeeping because that's not what we're looking to do. Doesn't fit with kind of what our team members and what our owners were interested in. So I think it's going to look different for different people. But I think definitely it's finding that one service that is profitable and works for you is going to give you a great stability in your business, especially as the industry changes. So whether that's health insurance, whether it's real estate, that's what I did for a couple of years. What I was able to develop with the tax school, that was kind of my solution to that, because it was a different season, different, and it was complementary. So I think it's going to be different for different people, but the universality of it is wanting to maximize your opportunities and depending on your overhead costs, needing to have another opportunity.
Are you somewhere in your tax career and feeling lost with what to do next? Do you sometimes wish you had a map to show you your next step to reach your full potential as a tax professional? Here at Pronto Tax School, we have developed that guide. We call it the Pronto Path, and we want to share it with you for free. Go to taxpronation.com/path right now.
Yeah, this brings up a point from last week that we were talking about knowing your employees, knowing yourself, doing those, personality assessments, strengths finders assessments. If you go into a new line of business related to the tax, that's not suited for you, right? Like you just said, doing, ongoing client relationships throughout the year wasn't suited for you, right? So you had a bunch of folks that were wanting to close deals and get business and do the job and be done. And then, if you started a business where all of a sudden they had to continue that relationship throughout the year, right? And keep working with the same clients throughout the year over and over and over and over in a bookkeeping scenario, maybe those personalities wouldn't thrive in that environment. So you'd be doing the equivalent of what we were talking about with the programmers, where you make them a manager and they're like fish out of water going, hold on a minute. This isn't what I signed up for. So you have to know yourself well enough to choose the right businesses and not jump into the deep end of a pool that you don't want to swim in, right?
Yeah, and it'd be the same thing. I mean, we had a couple notes here of other businesses that can go very well with tax preparation, right? So you have insurance, financial planning. But let's look again, the similar thing to the bookkeeping of financial planning, right? Financial planning requires extensive credentialing. There are a ton of compliance things with it. So if somebody likes being an independent tax pro, because it's kind of even though there are a lot of regulations, as we've talked about in the initiation stage, it's surprisingly kind of easy to maintain your credential, and it's not super heavy compliance, generally speaking. So for some people, that's exactly what they're not looking for. And the fact of, okay, well, you can make good money doing that doesn't necessarily equate to that's what you want to do, because people have a vision in their mind of, I'm getting in the tax business because I want to have control of my own time. I want to be able to have some upside to my earnings, and I want to have some time off when I want the time off. So is financial planning going to be the best fit for that type of person? Not necessarily, because it's similar to bookkeeping, where you're going to probably be working with higher income, higher net worth. That type of client is used to a higher touch scenario, right? You're doing a lot more networking probably. So you just want to kind of, as you look at opportunities, see, what's going to be a fit for you. And also, as we'll talk about here, what's going to be a fit for your clients? Like, what do people actually want from you? And letting the market kind of talk to you about what's needed.
So this is an outsider's question, kind of a dumb question, but I assume that tax season, quote unquote, is wrapped around the individual taxes that you're doing. Whereas in our current environment, as individual taxes are getting simpler for individuals to do, right? And it seems like business taxes are year round, right? You have to report quarterly, and it seems like there's a more year round cycle there. There's a lot of delays you can do, and you can kind of do past year taxes, and it's a lot more year round, correct? The business taxes?
More. Yeah, much more so. And that's one of the biggest opportunities.
Yeah, I was going to say, so I mean, as the tax laws change and the business itself changes, I mean, a lot of folks are going to have to do more year-round work if they move into the business tax, right?
Yeah, and it's already happening. And I think that even that, although it's technically it's the same, I guess, general industry, that could be a form of stabilization in and of itself, as you've been doing all 1040 individual work, right? And now you start adding business work.
Yep.
You're stabilizing your situation. And so I think we want to have the broad definition of that versus like something that could be totally, like perceived as random. Like for instance,
like beekeeping, which is what I thought this said.
Beekeeping? Yeah.
Not bookkeeping. That's not beekeeping.
Right. Yeah, it's funny. We were one of the best things that I ever heard about the Pronto Tax School thing was when we were first kind of getting some momentum. One of my friends was up on Big Bear Lake, which is like a recreational area outside of Los Angeles. And he was out with a lady that was doing a tour guide, and she was rowing the boat, right? And so he was saying, as people often say to a tax preparer, right, is they're like, what do you do the rest of the year? Like when it's not summer and there's no boats to row, what do you do? And the lady was like, I do taxes. And so my friend was like, you should check out Pronto, or you should check out, my friend has an education company that might be able to help you. And she was like, no, I'm good. I just use Pronto Tax School. Don't even bother like tell me about your friend or whatever.
That's awesome.
So I mean, just a picture of hey, this person's doing this seeming totally unrelated, but it works for them,
right?
That's where they live during the summer, and so you have different people find their own way, but either way, they're kind of stabilizing their income, stabilizing their situation of having some work to do to help other people and be involved, and it's a pretty wide variation that you can have.
We talked about some of the downsides to things to watch out for. One of the other things is, you get into a business where all of a sudden the demand of selling and marketing constantly comes back up again, where you get into another line of business that ties up your time to generate the business that you need for that second stabilization service line or business that you're starting. What are some other downsides or what are some other things to keep in mind?
Well, I think it's, once you've accelerated your business on the tax preparation or on the tax side to a point where you know that you have enough momentum, you have a good opportunity here, and now you're trying to add something else, there's always a danger of just losing focus, and there's...
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, and that happens a lot of times with adding different services, right? Because you may be trying to hedge your bets, right? So I remember that when we were first doing this, Jesse was in charge of kind of building up the immigration consulting side of it, and I was working on building up small business services, right? So that we had kind of divided things like that. But you're trying to do 2 or 3 different things. And what we learn about every business, whether is that if it was easy, everybody'd be doing it. So whether you're doing health insurance or there aren't a lot of things that I know of that are truly easy and really fast to get started. So there's a period, just like you had to go through initiation, activation, traction for your tax business. If you add another service, you kind of on that same thing. So how much time is that going to take? How much money is that going to take? And can that, actually work well with your existing business as you continue to grow that business?
Yeah, I would say too that this is an advanced step. This is not, you're starting out and you're going to try to cut corners, right? And start 3 businesses right out of the gate. Have your plan and prove one of them first. Get to acceleration in one focus business first, one niche, right? Prove that you can do the model, that you can go on this journey and reach step 5 before you start thinking about step 6, right? The stabilization. Because I think the trap that a lot of, especially type A overachievers want to do is, okay, if that's where I'm going, then I'm going to start doing that now. And I'll start, putting my eggs in 3 different baskets. So, I'll hedge my bets from the start. And really, that's a fallacy, because what happens is you do spread yourself too thin, and you never reach acceleration in any of them, because it just takes too long, and you're not focusing all of your energy on that one.
Yeah, it's easy to have happen because everything takes a little bit longer and costs more generally than you think that it's going to. So, let me know if that sounds about right.
Yep.
And that applies, if you're the business owner, or if you're an employee, you're building something else new for yourself when you're, not in tax season. It's just, it takes patience, it takes persistence. And I think that is where some people have trouble with this part of it, because they feel like they've quote unquote already done that for their tax business. And so why should I have to do it again? And that's when a lot of people will say, well, hey, maybe I can just have a lower cost business. Like maybe I can work out of my house instead of having an office. And I think that's fine. People can look at what works for them. But if you look at your numbers and say, hey, I'm carrying these costs and I owe it to my team members when I bring someone in to try to give them the best opportunity I can, you're going to have a different need in this area than somebody that's working totally on their own, has clear expectations for anybody that works with them that, hey, it's I need you to work for 5 weeks or for 5 days or whatever it might be. So I think just individually looking at where you're at, certainly if you have an office and you have team members, adding something else to your business that's profitable is of the utmost importance.
Right. And do you recommend, if you have a small office and you have several people, where you take, 1, maybe 2 people to kind of lead that initiative? Or do you kind of let everyone go on the journey with you on this new business idea?
No, I think you're not going to have, like what I found is that you're not going to have everybody that wants to go on that journey with you, because there's no money in it yet.
Right. It's a good point.
Right? Like you're the one that's trying to build the business. If you're the business owner, or even if you're an employee and you're trying to do something new, you have a different motivation than other people. So I think you can ask people to support you. You can ask people to help you in a way that works for them. But if you are going to, that's where it comes down to allocating resources. If you decide, hey, I'm going to go into financial planning, I'm going to go into insurance, and you want a teammate to come along with you, there needs to be an allocation of resources to make that work for everybody. And sometimes in a tax business, you feel like those resources are scarce because you don't have that new line of business yet. So that's why we focus in the Pronto Path on that elevation step to get your prices to a point where you have some of that, those resources to be able to move into a new area. So is that making sense, what I'm saying?
Sure, absolutely.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah. So let's say I'm resonating with this. I'm hearing it. I'm kind of cringing a little bit because I'm like, man, we focused, we got everything in line. We're at this stage where we're just accelerating our business. It's growing. We've got all the resources. Do I really want to start over again in something that I don't really know a lot about? Right. So kind of what's the next step? Like, what do I do? What do I do here?
Yeah, and that's exactly it, is that uncertainty, and that even as you're hearing me talk about this, I probably sound to some people like it's like, hey, just give us like what to do. Like just what are you talking about? Get specific. What should you do? But I mean, the honest answer is, like a lot of things with taxes, is it depends. And one of the main things that it depends on, in my opinion, is really step one, which is talking to your existing clients about what they need, or getting outward feedback about what is wanted, and not only wanted, but what they actually need. Like, what are the problems that you're having?
Right. And it's so much easier, just coming from a sales perspective, to upsell existing clients than it is to find new clients.
Totally.
So if you have a client base that trusts you and you've already built that relationship, focus there first. And that's what I'm hearing, right? That's a great first step, because you might find that all of your clients are starting businesses. Well, hey, there you go. Do their taxes. Don't let them walk out the door and go to someone else, right? Or you might find that a lot of your clients are trading Bitcoin or cryptocurrency, right? Okay, that might be a good business to get into, right? So I think that's a great suggestion as a first step, to really talk to your clients, find out what else do they need. And you might find something that you weren't thinking of, that I think you mentioned before a few weeks back about the equestrian niche, right? Or I'm not sure.
The horse, the Santa Anita racetrack, horse workers.
Right. Horse workers, yeah. I mean, right? Like, did you ever get into the business thinking you would be doing taxes for folks like that?
Right.
I mean, just, you don't know until you ask, find out. Are you thinking about getting into the tax business, but not sure where to start? Maybe you're not even sure the tax business is the right fit for you, and you don't want to invest a lot of money or time quite yet. You just want to get a taste of tax knowledge and see if you like it. Or maybe you're an experienced tax pro and you see someone else in your world who needs an introduction to the tax business, but you don't have time to teach all the basics. If either of those situations sound familiar to you, you need to check out the Pronto Tax School Basic Income Tax course today. It's fun, entertaining, and gets you a real IRS credential. Go to taxpronation.com/basic to find out more.
The market has a way of, and clients and potential clients have a way of telling you that they need something, which is called paying you. And so you want to distinguish before you go too far into a new service and building out all a new business plan and allocating resources and keeping someone on year round that you're not sure you'll have the cash flow from your existing business, et cetera. All that. You want to know that people are willing to pay for getting that problem solved.
That's a really good point.
And you want to have some actual feedback and say, just give me your actual opinion on this. And the small business owners is a perfect example. Is when I first started getting into building out that part of our business, I saw that people are starting businesses and they don't have any idea about what they need to do as far as taxes, accounting. Like, it's just, and it still is like that, right? Even as many information resources that are out there. Right. But what I didn't realize is that they may say that they want that, but they're not really willing to pay for that in a way that's a profitable business. So if they say, like, I say to you, I'm the startup, I want you to do my bookkeeping. I would love if you did my bookkeeping, right? The second you tell me it's over $40 a month, I'll be like, I'll talk to you next tax season, right? That's not a good business, right? Whereas, let's say that you're doing education and financial coaching. The person wants to, know that they're doing the right thing for their business and whatever else. But if you could maybe package it to be teaching 5 people at the same time, kind of how to do, like what about this business is going to meet the person's needs, but it also has to be profitable for you. And if you're constantly trying to like talk people into doing something, like that's what people love about the tax business, right? Is that you need to do your taxes. So when you contact us, you need to do it. If you don't do it here, you're going to do it somewhere else, right?
Right.
And other services, that's why a lot of tax pros, I think, have trouble, because other services are much more optional.
They get spoiled. Yeah.
We're very spoiled because we're used to getting 40% net profit.
Yeah.
And we don't know that, hey, once you add in marketing spend and all these other things. So I think you make a great point with using your existing client base. But I think it's very important for myself, having done it both ways, is to reach out to those people and let them communicate to you clearly what they need and also what they'd be willing to pay for and what they see prices as being, is something that it's a helpful conversation, even though it can be a little awkward, but it can save you a lot of money and time.
So how would you go about finding that out? Like, what are some practical ways to find out what they would be willing to pay?
I think just straight up, just asking people, just saying, hey, we're looking at this, solving this particular problem. Hopefully you're talking to somebody that either has that problem themselves or they know somebody else who does have it and needs help, and say, let's think through what pricing is and what would be a great value. And maybe you could put out a couple, ideas for how that would work. Or, hey, this is how this company does it. What do you think about the way it is? Is that worth it? Is that a good value?
Yeah. And get that direct feedback. What about actually offering that service at a certain price and seeing if people buy it?
That's always great too.
If you're prepared, I guess, to deliver on that.
That's great too. And it's something where you're getting feedback from the person, and especially if it's one of your clients that really wants you to be successful. Because let's think about it. When people are asking you, what do you do for the rest of the year? They're saying essentially, I want to work with you more. It's a compliment. Right. And so they're saying, well, whatever you were to tell me, I probably would be interested, right? But as with anything business-wise or professional-wise, we have to get it to a professional level. And so how long will that take you? And there's an initiation, activation period, just like any other business. But absolutely, if you can perform a service and give someone an actual offer to try it out, I mean, there's no better research than that.
What other businesses did you try to stabilize with that didn't work out so well? And what were some of the lessons?
It'd be interesting to know, what is a good batting average for trying new businesses?
What's the stat on how many businesses fail? We should look that up.
Yeah, I think they said it's
pretty high.
9 out of 10 over 5 years, or 8 out of 10, or it's a high percentage. So I think that over the years, since I've really felt like the opportunity at the company where I started my career, which is my dad's company, Pronto Income Tax, we had such a great client base of people that trusted us that I always felt like we could do so much more for the community, for our clients, and we all could make so much more. And so that's kind of was my role that I brought to the company, and which I still bring to the company, is trying new things, being progressive, trying to put things out there that try to help clients, even if not everything's going to work out well. Because that's, as you know from doing other entrepreneurial things, when you put yourself out there and you try something new, there's a chance that it won't work out. And that chance is probably fairly high in a lot of situations.
Yeah, Seth Godin has a good take on that, where if you're asking the question, this might not work, or will this work? And you're saying this might not work, that's a good sign, because it means you are trying something new and you are pushing your boundaries, and it could work and it could pay off very well for you. Because like you were saying before, if it was that easy and you were doing something that was proven, then everybody would be doing it.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah. So, I mean, I've definitely tried some different things in association with other teammates and on my own, kind of missions. So I think we went through a phase of bookkeeping. That was a short phase. It was something that I personally don't enjoy doing other people's bookkeeping. I like helping people with their numbers and understand their business and having more profits and all that. I get it, why that's important. But it just was never my thing. And so that was kind of a short stint on that one.
So hold on that one. So I'm assuming you went into that because your clients told you they wanted that? Or why did you go into that?
Normally, tax pros, we get into bookkeeping because you see your business clients coming in at the end of the year without what they really need in order to file their taxes. So you're trying to redo kind of everything that wasn't done. And you have this kind of dream that like next year it'll be different. And you're like, well, who else is going to help them? I should help them. There's a whole train of thought process that I'm sure a lot of people listening have gone through. They need that, whatever. And so that's that testing process of, is the person willing to pay for that? Like, because bookkeeping requires ongoing cooperation between the client and you. Like tax prep, you're like, sir, give me these documents. These are the documents that I need, this list here. Bookkeeping is more like you can't complete the bookkeeping monthly until the person tells you, I don't know what these 30 transactions are. Like, I need you to go through and do this. And a lot of business owners, they're just not going to do that, which is why they didn't have a bookkeeper to begin with. So you have a whole different, it's just a whole different can of worms.
But why did you get into it though? Why did you attempt to try that?
Because I see how important it is. I mean, it's such an important thing for if somebody's going to grow a business and you need to have control over your own numbers. So, I mean, certainly like when I was going through that acceleration phase in our offices, I knew that we were making more money, but I was so busy doing everything else that like, did I really have control of all the numbers I probably should have? So, I mean, that's how I am as a business person. I like to relate. They're probably going through something similar to me, and I really would love to help them out.
Right. But then you realized you're not a good fit for that type of business, right?
Right. Doesn't like less than to sit there for 8 hours, like hearing that QuickBooks for somebody else's bookkeeping. like, what's wrong with this picture?
Spoken like a true entrepreneur.
Yeah, and like I said, Jeff, when you're making a few $1,000s like a day doing taxes, the last thing you want to do is work $15 an hour doing bookkeeping.
Right.
With all due respect to anybody that does bookkeeping, that's just not what I'm looking for.
Right. All right. What else?
We had various things that actually worked out better than that. So like immigration, filling out certain simpler immigration forms. Jesse took that and ran with it, and it took a little while. It wasn't, again, it's something that he was patient with, but he kept building up his professional, sort of pedigree and training in that field, and really made it a nice complementary business where he was getting also a lot of tax clients from that, because immigration people frequently need to file multiple tax returns as part of that process.
Yeah, that sounds like a great fit.
It is, and it's a great fit though when you're just like you were in your tax business and your tax career, when you're paying your dues, working through doing what you need to do and building it up and being patient. It can be a great fit. If someone thinks that overnight, hey, I'm going to flip the switch and start doing this and it's going to result in X, Y, Z, that's less proven.
It gets back to the patience, step that we talked about. So, okay. So, bookkeeping, immigration, what else?
Yeah, we've also done some life insurance and annuities, kind of the sort of light financial planning, not stocks and not SEC registered, but mainly life insurance. I think that was something that we did have some traction with. I think that's something that it requires consistent sales outreach and kind of business development that was not really a part of what our current culture was. And we've also done, we had a gentleman in our office doing college planning, so helping people qualify for more financial aid. I would say that anything short of like selling Christmas trees or Halloween store, I've probably looked at it at a certain point. Like we were looking at doing credit repair. A lot of people do that.
Cricket protein.
Yeah, cricket. I'm telling you, when you're, and a lot of tax pros that are listening to this are probably thinking back on some of the things that you tried, because you hear about other opportunities, right? Because other people, they say to you that like, you got a client base of people that trust you, right? So you're already 80% of the way there. I would have to say that that's really not true. You're not 80% of the way there. You may be like 30% of the way there, but you have to walk that path carefully. And like we were doing incorporations along with a joint venture partner. And so some of the things I talk about are not necessarily all in-house, but it might be a joint venture partner that we were kind of, working together with.
That's an interesting take on it. Yeah. So maybe these are other stabilization businesses that you go in with another business in a partnership, right? Or a joint venture where they're the expert at what they're doing and you're reselling it or packaging it in a certain way that benefits both of you.
Exactly. And that's one of the best ways to do it. So even if you have, we've had over the years like different, a cost sharing arrangement, where if you have an office and you have somebody doing insurance and they have them in the back office and you're in the front office and you guys cooperate. But again, it's when people say you're 80% of the way there because you have that client list, you're really not 80% of the way there, because whenever you're dealing with somebody else and their business and your clients, you're all working together. There's just steps you have to take along the path to like set up a proper agreement. Like what happens when things aren't done exactly right? Mm-hmm. How do you guys work together then when it's past the like romance period? So, there's just things that come up. And overall, I would say if you can do something that your client base and your community needs, and it's something that they don't just want, they need it, and they've shown a willingness to pay for it, there are a ton of opportunities like that, but just depending on what your client base and what your community needs.
Tax pros have seen it coming for years. The entrepreneurial wave is here, and that means more opportunity to do corporation, S-Corp, and LLC business tax returns. With the new tax law, they're even more complex and in demand. Professionals who increase their skill set in this area can expect to become more profitable and successful. Pronto Tax School has the perfect online training course for you called Business Tax Verified with CPA Adam Shea. Find out more at taxpronation.com/business. So some ideas that I've been thinking about while we've been talking, doesn't it make sense to partner with or maybe offer the services of like a CPA or a law firm? I mean, it seems like there's a lot of similarities in I have a business, I need my taxes done, I need legal help, I need my bookkeeping. I mean, it's all kind of revolving around. Are there any kind of legal reasons why those are separate or reasons why you would not want to cross those type of offerings under one roof?
There are, and that's kind of one of those things where people see that opportunity. But let me ask you a question. Why isn't H&R Block doing that? Why doesn't Liberty Tax do that? Why doesn't Jackson Hewitt do that? Those companies have a lot of resources, right? That they could try to do those things. So whenever you see that somebody else not doing that, there must be a reason why. We already talked about the HR stuff that can come up with your actual employees. So imagine you're dealing with people that you really have no control over what they do or don't do. They have their own business. And you're managing 5 of those relationships. You got to be a pretty good leader. You got to be a pretty good manager. You got to really stay on top of those situations to make sure everybody's happy. Now, can it be done? Yes. And some of the most successful people in the business have exactly that. Like we would call it a dream team. So you have your loan officer, you got the attorney. I always like to keep two of each option, because they may be a different fit for a different type of client. But you got real estate broker, business attorney, estate attorney. So absolutely, like build up that dream team. And some of those arrangements, especially on the legal side, they're not permitted by law to split fees. And similar with insurance, you're not allowed to get paid an insurance commission in most cases unless you have an insurance license. Mm. So those are the kind of things that it's things that you need to go through in a step-by-step way. And you want to make sure that you are taking your client's trust very, very seriously because you really have worked hard to earn that.
Right.
And that's the main thing that you have.
Yeah, that sounds like a major point during this step, is to violate that client trust.
yeah, that'll be a bad mistake because that'll be something that you tried to stabilize and you did the complete opposite of that, because all of your stability in the tax business is based on the trust that you have with your clients and how confident they feel working with you and recommending you, all that kind of stuff. So if you lose that, you've lost, kind of lost your way. There's an IRS code section called 7216, which prohibits tax professionals from marketing other services using information that you gathered during the tax preparation process. So that would be an example, right, of like, from an outsider point of view, like, why doesn't it make sense to have 10 different services and everybody like cross-marketing all over the place? I mean, it does make sense as a business, right? Your clients need to have signed a disclosure, a 7216 disclosure, which a lot of CPAs and higher end people that have kind of figured out this model just build into their process, like into their engagement letter. But that's something that you need to do that. And until you do that, you can be subject to all kinds of fines and, jail time and things that you just really don't need in your life. So you don't want to go off and start and just get an idea and start segmenting your database and marketing unrelated services, because that's not what we call legal.
Wow.
And what are the other people that may be trying to persuade you into that, like another joint venture or something like that? They're not bound by those because that's not their thing, right? You're the person that has the database of these people's sensitive information.
Right.
So you got to take it back to the golden rule, is that how would you feel if you're a client? And so you really want to be careful with those kind of things, because you want to be respectful towards the clients that even got you here in the first place.
Interesting. So if that's the case, right, and the tax professionals know that, how do you introduce new services to clients?
I think you need to do so in a way that's educational, that is based on the client's needs. And so you may host a seminar and say, we're introducing this, or send a letter, hey, we're starting to do this. Be on social media saying we're starting to do this. There are a lot of different ways to introduce it, a new service. There's always going to be, when you're stepping outside of the box of what the clients think you are, right? They're like, you're my tax person. And it's very interesting culturally, because mainly like Caucasians, like white people, generally speaking, not to generalize too bad, but they like to have a little more segmented. Like, this is my attorney, this is my tax, this is my CPA, this is my tax person.
White people.
What are you going to do? Whereas some other cultures, like for instance, some parts of the Latino culture, they would be much more interested in having like a one-stop shop kind of place where you can do multiple things. And it wouldn't be as unusual to be doing like a travel agency and tax returns and insurance. In fact, it's called a multi-servicios office, right? So that's a part of that culture, and that's a convenience thing and all that, but it's again, if you know what your clients need, and you have to be prepared at some level to step outside of the box, because people are going to say, I didn't expect you to do X, Y, Z. That's part of stabilizing your business, is I didn't know that you did that.
You want some honey?
And
I do beekeeping as well.
Yeah, I do beekeeping. I could row a boat or whatever you need. But being confident in what you're doing and the value for the client definitely helps a lot. And there's just a period of time where you're just letting people know, I also can do this for you.
Yeah.
It may take them hearing about it a few times before they're interested. But again, that's all part of the process.
Perfect. So any other thoughts here on the stability step?
If you can cross this step and say, for example, get which one of the things that we've been having success with at our own company, Jeff, and also what we see our Pronto Tax School members having as a second source of income would be tax problem resolution work. Mm-hmm. So there's over 14 million taxpayers that are in active collections with the IRS. And as more and more people become self-employed, that number continues to go up. So if you're a tax preparer and you do tax preparation, we have our new enrolled agent test prep course coming out, right? So you need to either be an EA or a CPA or an attorney, generally speaking, to do tax problem resolution work professionally. So someone going and taking that EA exam, passing that and saying, I'm going to add tax problem resolution to my business. That's a great stabilizing source of income, and it fits, perfectly with your existing business, right? Because it's not even a different business.
Right.
Right. So something like that, and that's the one that I think is probably the sort of lowest hanging fruit in a way for a lot of tax pros. And that, and also doing more tax work for business owners, something like that. If you decide to do it, you got to realize that you're going to be outside of your comfort zone sometimes because you're dealing with people with tax problems, right? They're probably, it takes longer. It takes 3 to 6 months to resolve a lot of those cases, as opposed to doing a tax return and you're done in an hour. So it is different. But for your business and for your career, do you want to stabilize it so that you really feel like you're on solid ground? That's what it takes.
Right. And if you're listening to this and you are not this advanced, right? Maybe you're listening and you just started off, or you're growing your business, or you're in the thick of trying to figure out what your niche is. Whatever stage you're at and you're listening to this, you're already ahead of the game, right? You're already looking down the road and you're seeing the obstacles and the challenges that are you're going to face later on. Don't worry so much about these now, but just know that as you listen to Tax Pro Nation, you're going to learn and hear stories from people that are in each step, right? And what they're dealing with real time, what they've been through and the lessons they've learned. And so you're really going to get a set of mentors that are going to teach you not only what to expect, but how to succeed when you get to those steps, right? So I'm really excited that you're listening. I'm really excited that you're going to get benefit out of this. We are just thrilled to be able to provide this for you. So we'll connect next week, Andy, and we'll do the seventh step.
A seventh step out of 9 steps.
Correct.
And after these 9 steps, we're going to be getting some other voices involved. We're just kind of laying that foundation right now, going through the entire path. And I hope you guys are, getting some value out of this. I know that when I was trying to figure out what does the path forward look like myself in my own career, I would have loved to have something like this to participate in the community. So thanks, Jeff, for kind of taking such leadership on this to bring this together. I know it's going to be a lot of value for people out there saying, what is my next step? How do I get to that next level? All that kind of good stuff. So it's been a lot of fun so far.
Cool. I have been Jeff Dolan.
I've been Andy Fry. Thank you so much for listening.
All of the show notes for this episode can be found at taxpronation.com/6. We have actually created an infographic of the Pronto Path so you can see all of the steps in one place. Go ahead and download that at taxpronation.com/6 as well. We hope this episode made your life a little bit easier and more profitable. Join us next week as we continue down the Pronto Path to talk about step 7, which is multiplication. Train and mentor others in a way that benefits them and you. Take care.